Gano Party of Kenya. And final, last but not least, at the very end, Odoyo Owidi is a political analyst. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us. I'll begin with you, Odoyo. 46 days to go.
Yes.
There's a lot going on. The political campaigns are on high gear. We are seeing NASA today in Kitale. Jubilee is in Nyeri. Unclear where the independent candidates are, as we never quite see them with the huge public rallies. But also the sentiments that have been made, the processes that are in court and those that we've been told will be moving to court, the martyrs. What do you make of where we are as a country?
Let's take on the presidential candidates first. The stakes are just too high for any of those two major parties. As you know, Raila Odinga has almost his last and only chance to go for the presidency. So stakes for him is very high. His age is also advancing. Going back to Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto team, you know they have been in power, and if they are removed right now, it will be a vote of no confidence in them, and trying it again another time may not be any easier for them. Ruto has to put everything in it, because if his team is removed now, he may not even get a prospective alliance to try in 2022. So the stakes are just too high. That is why you see too much noise in and outside the media, on the ground, on the social media, and everywhere else.
Yeah, you call it noise. Some, Dennis, argue that this is noise that could derail the election, noise, quote unquote, because one of the issues at hand that has been presented by NASA is on the ballot printing tender. And of course, they are threatening to move to court. IBC has clearly stated if that is challenged and they have to begin afresh, we will not have an election on 8th of August.
Yes. Actually, the reprieve is that if you look at it and if you did a fragility assessment on the elections, is that first of all, tensions were getting heightened. The credibility of IBC and the electoral process was beginning to be put in question. But the Chief Justice stepped in today and he categorically said that they're not going to listen to any matter on election, on the ballot paper printing. But however, the Chief Justice himself is not in a place where he can subjugate any justice. If NASA go to court, then NASA have a right to be listened to. So my take is that, you know, dialogue has to be opened. Let IBC dialogue on any other matter. Let us talk about these issues 46 days to the election. And the more everybody takes a hardline position, the more we get into a tricky position, and it has to be medicated, and the more we put the entire country at risk, where everybody is sort of pressing their pedal and pressing their pedal. And of course, what happens is that Mr. Raila Odinga is putting in a case. And of course, if he loses, he's going to say, look, I told you. I told you the military was being used. I told you they printed ballot papers. I told you the disease. I told you the disease. You can see the results clearly. And that puts the state in a very precarious situation. Those issues have to be medicated as fast as possible.
As fast as possible.
Yes.
And tomorrow there's that major ruling that we're expecting, Gorasia, on the announcement of the presidential election results. Will it be at the national level, the returning officer, of course, the presidential race being the IEBC chair, or will it be at the constituency level? But you're in Wiper, part of NASA, saying that, and we've heard from the politicians and principals before, if the Court of Appeal overturns the High Court decision, there will be no elections. And many have seen that or interpreted that to mean back to demonstrations, back to quote-unquote violence, perhaps.
What I believe the people should now learn something from the past. That, yes, the process has to be there for the election. And since this is a Republic of Kenya, everyone, including IBC and the politicians, should respect the process. Because all the time we are having elections, there's always a say that there was a stolen of elections or ballot paper were not printed nicely. And today we are in a technology world. If all these things to be captured well, we can use cameras. This has been, even I've told past interviews, that use technology to protect this and give the right information to the people. Because why people fight? Because the information has not been shared openly to the people.
When technology fails?
Technology, okay, there has to be alternative in technologies. There are like CCTV camera could be there as a part of watching what is happening as the system fails. Because most of the time, people are trying to use that. And this is what I'm saying. Kenyans should not try to play around with their own Kenyans, because these are public. They have their rights to choose their leaders because of certain individuals who have their personal interest, either by money or by the tribal or by the party, whatever. Why should we allow our rights to be taken away by the public, by the individuals?
All right, yeah. So
I believe that IBC should do their job the way it's supposed to be done. They should not work with under pressure, whether it's ruling party or not ruling party.
all right. Owidi, looking at IEBC, how would you rate their performance so far? For the commissioners, they're relatively new. The secretariat has been there for some time. But as far as the allegations you're hearing, in the manner in which they've been conducting themselves, the statements they've issued to represent their positions, do you have confidence in them?
Definitely, my confidence has been eroded over time. You listened a few seconds ago, my brother here said that the Chief Justice has said that the courts will not tolerate any injunction on the printing of ballot papers. First of all, the courts must be independent, not only from the executive, but they must also be independent from the superiors within the court itself. The Chief Justice has no right to gag the courts from listening to anything. But you have also noticed that IEBC and Jubilee behave like they have formed a tag team. A tag team meaning that whenever IEBC is under attack or under scrutiny from the opposition, it is Jubilee that responds first, even before the technocrats within IEBC responds. This gives the people the impression that they have formed a tag team with the government. It is very unfortunate that the Chief Justice said what he said today. I do not have the details, but I got 411 from...
But is there any action on the part of IEBC that has caused your confidence in the commission to go down, to wane?
Yes.
Yeah.
First of all, insisting that that company must print those ballots without investigating the allegations made by the opposition was wrong. In fact, they came out and said that company must print those ballots. Remember, in 2013, we had the nominations end on 21st of January, and the tribunals and courts ran until we had about a month too, and we still had the ballot papers in time. So I think saying that there's no time is not in the interest of this country. And we must also note, we would rather have a free, fair, and verifiable election rather than have one that is unfair, but it is on time.
All right, Dennis, could perhaps the CJ be saying this because if this matter moves to court on the ballot printing, because IBC has said there will not be election, there will not be time, the timeline's already way been surpassed. There are those who opine that this is a plan to have no election, which should perhaps force the country into a coalition agreement of sorts to stabilize things as we await an election at whatever point then it should happen. Do you agree with those who say that?
So if you look at the issue of ballot printing and essentially whether it's a constitutional mandate to change the supply or not, it's not. It's an issue that we can dialogue. It's an issue that we can sit down as brothers and sisters as a country and say, look, what concerns do you have?
But clearly it hasn't worked so far. They met.
No,
IBC
there hasn't been any dialogue on the ballot issue. And by the way,
there was
Jubilee,
after they raised the claim.
Correct.
They called all the presidential candidates, but they've disagreed in the meeting.
Yeah, but as you can see, the position of IBC of late has been, it hasn't opened dialogue, basically. And I think the opposition has put its pedal down and said, look, you either change or not, or we are going to court. And I've seen Jubilee today, the likes of Adan Duale, sort of trying to say, look, you can change and you can have whoever it is. All we want is an election. And I think the Chief Justice sort of is right or wrong, because if you look at it technically and matters of jurisprudence, sometimes the court has to rule in favor of a nation and in favor of public interest. Because it's not a crime for Al Goran basically to take up the tender. But what are the fears? Can we address the fears through constitutional, multi-agency approach? If you think it's an election that's going to be stolen, can we have a way of verifying whether or not ballot papers have been printed in favor of XYZ and all that? And I think, honestly, what we need to do is have dialogue and put confidence in IBC and other institutions, because, the opposition went out there and rioted and we were given a new IBC. So disqualifying the same baby that you birthed, it qualifies you as the opposition as though you're not ready to go into an election. And that's the way it looks like. I think some of these things are things that the opposition can debate and we get over with and we have an election, because taking an election away from the public absolutely is subjugating Article 1 of the Constitution, where power is given to the people. I don't think Mr. Raila Odinga or anybody has a right to take that election away from the public. There are some things that we can take about it in terms of the ruling that is there tomorrow. The duties and responsibilities of a constituency returning officer are well specified, and one of them is announcing the presidential results. You understand? So there are matters that we can agree, there are matters that are constitutional, and honestly, we just need to say this is right and this we can talk about. So that really we work collectively in terms of making sure that we have a free and fair election come August 8th.
All right, Gracia, there are those who are concerned. They're watching the political events here in the country, and they feel this looks dicey. There's so many issues coming up, from the military allegedly being co-opted in as far as the government is concerned. We have the ballot printing issues that already there are papers that have been printed for this election. What do you tell those Kenyans who are saying either this is a lot of propaganda or these are many legitimate issues being raised and they're not being addressed, and some quarters would rather they be swept under the carpet?
I have always said that, like opposition and the ruling government, which they are trying to fight over something. If IBC is independent and they are left to do their work professionally, where the interference which is happening from the government, running government, and also the opposition, this interference to me should not be there. If we don't have a trust over the IBC, they won't really cross-check these things. We could go for the leaders, like religious leaders are there, social leaders are there, to check over it, whatever is happening. Come up with a system which is independent than the politics. Because right now, two politicians are trying to fight for the positions. Now, the same people are doubting the system. It's very hard to now give the confidence to the people. So only the way of giving people confidence, because in Kenya, we have a lot of confidence on the religious leaders. Because if you go to the churches, there are a lot of... so they should be given some chance to look at and wave and give their opinions on these things. That, because us politicians is like, we'll talk about this and this, because what I think the propaganda...
But are you saying politicians can be reckless or are allowed more room to say things that could potentially break the country?
No, they should not be allowed.
Yeah.
The politicians should be talking about the peace, first of all, because not the personal, because when you're looking at the personal interest of everything, it becomes a problem to the country. Here, we are looking at the interest of the Kenyans.
And we'll continue with this conversation in just a short while, gentlemen. Allow me to, for now, cross over to Kigali, Rwanda, while Eugene Anango is standing by for us on phone. President Paul Kagame just finished addressing some of his supporters, and of course, the election is just 4 days apart from ours, coming on the 4th of August. Earlier today, he presented his papers to the Elections Commission there. Eugene, good afternoon to you. Talk to us about what the president had to say after getting the nod from his party today.
Sophia, good afternoon to you. Indeed, President Paul Kagame has just walked out of the room where he was addressing the members of the press and, of course, jubilant supporters of the Rwanda Patriotic Front, who came to flank him as he was coming to deliver his papers to the National Electoral Commission here in Rwanda for the contestation of the position of president in the August 8th election. Now, the president of Rwanda has received an array of questions from journalists here, including succession politics, including the issues of the performance of his government over the last 7 years. And I must just want to bring to your attention, some of the things that he had to say. One of the things that he said concerning his, track record so far, 7 years later, he believes that his government has actually performed way better and than expected with the minimum resources. You remember that there was a time when, there are some countries that cut aid to Rwanda, and the country has been able to actually sustain some of the programs without that particular aid. So President Kagame says that he's happy, he's contented, and he's very proud of his team that has actually performed or outperformed itself. Now, on the issue of succession politics, of course, this question did not fail to come up on what happens after 2024, after the 7 years mandate that he's getting right now, and then later on he still has a chance to run for another 2 terms of 5 years each. And then so, during his speech at the Congress, when the RPF nominated him as the presidential candidate for the party, he actually had hinted that, this 7 years that he's going in for should be seen as a transition period whereby they deal with the key issues that led the Rwandans to bring him back on the race for presidency, so that someone else can be able to take over when the 7 years are up. And so the president was categorical, saying that, the RPF has already been working on a way of finding this successor for him. They have a school or a training for RPF cadres. These are the members of the RPF. And so he has challenged them, the members of his party, to show up and, contest for this particular position of presidency after the 2024 period comes, after the 7 years are over. So it's sort of, it was a mood whereby the president of Rwanda was trying to prepare people that, yes, I've accepted to take this position again of vying for presidency after the constitution was changed, but there is a need to address the key issues that and the concerns that have led you guys to bring me back here again. And so this is what will remain to be seen over this next 7 years if President Paul Kagame wins the election at that stage. Sophia.
Eugene, finally, when we last spoke, largely there's a feeling that he will win this election. But talk to us about the confidence in the Electoral Commission in Rwanda. Here in Kenya, of course, a lot of debate around some of the decisions they're making in the run-up to the election. How is it in Rwanda?
You see, Sophia, the Electoral Commission here in Rwanda has not failed to also come under criticism from a quarter or a cross-section of citizens here. You remember that there was a period of time around May 25th of this year, the National Electoral Commission officials came out with a statement that all the social media, communication from presidential hopefuls should be filtered, should first go through the Electoral Commission before they are posted. So the Electoral Commission had challenged or asked the media teams of the presidential hopefuls to be fast sending their messages to them before it goes on social media. And the Electoral Commission came under criticism, including from the Foreign Affairs Minister, who actually tweeted and actually challenged them and said that, this is seeming like gagging and stopping people from expressing themselves. And the Electoral Commission had to reverse this particular order. But when it comes to issues of, handling the electoral process itself, the voting, the ballot papers, the accusations that you see in other East African countries over the Electoral Commission is very minimum right here in Rwanda.
All right. Many thanks, Eugene Anangwe. We will look forward to more updates from you in as far as that political race as it continues to shape up in coming days. So those pictures currently on your screen are of the presidential candidates in the Rwanda election. It's going to be happening on the 4th of August. So we've gotten some perspectives there from our Eugene Anangwe on the issues that have been raised on the Electoral Commission in Rwanda, but largely President Kagame expected to reclinch, if you like, his seat as president. He's been president for 7 years. Remember, it took a constitutional change for him to be able to run for president again. So another 7-year term if he wins. And even after that, could get 2 5-year terms, which would mean he could potentially be president of Rwanda up to the year 2034, if all works out for him. So the only lady, 8-year terms, I beg your pardon, not 7. So Shima Diane Regaria, daughter of the late Kigalian that has been moved. Okay. Yes, one of the candidates, 35 years old, the first woman to contest for this. So that's a huge and big deal there. Seen as an underdog, she's a businesswoman, but one of those to watch, and it's just for how she will perform in this election. And I want to just draw some parallels with my guests in studio. You've heard from our reporter there, and of course, perhaps you know 1 or 2 things about Rwanda. But what do you make about the development there and our election here? Because there are those who say when it comes to elections in Africa, there's always a common thread that connects all of the countries. Do you agree with that assessment?
You can see Kagame has set himself to be president for at least the next 17 years. He's already done 17.
He's done 7.
He became president, I think, in 2000.
Yes, 17.
Yes.
Yes, I beg your pardon.
Then
yes.
he's going to do another 7.
Yeah.
Then he will be eligible for another 2 5-year terms. Eligible. And he's a sitting president of an African country that has not gone through what we Kenyans have gone. So most likely, if God gives him life, he could be president for 34 years. I've seen a beautiful lady. They are trying to wage war against Kagame.
Yes.
But I think she's going to get good publicity for future battles. But for now, Kagame is squarely on the seat. Kagame is squarely on the seat.
Squarely on the seat. Dennis, to have a constitutional change to allow for him to continue, none of the arguments that was put out at the time is for stability. But one would imagine if you've been a good leader, then that means you've been able to bring about that stability in those 17 years as opposed to seeking to continue pursuing the same.
Yeah.
Do you think such a thing would happen here in Kenya?
Of course, Kenya, the likability, the likelihood actually for like for Kenya is that what happened in Kenya for a long time is that we had a monarchy. We had monarchies sitting in power. And that's the Prime Minister Kenyatta and President Moi. They sort of actually had monarchy power. And that's what Kagame has. The ability to be the only one who, flexes the muscles and does whatever it is that you want. You can change and twist the constitution to have whatever it is. But at least Kagame has managed to bring in development, but he hasn't managed to bring in democracy in Rwanda, because I doubt whether the lady is truly challenging Kagame. I think she's sponsored by Kagame to make it look as though there's democracy. Because Rwanda is a monarchy state. Kagame is not a president, he's a king. He decides what happens. And then, you have to understand that he's one of the most astute generals in Eastern Central Africa. Essentially, the stability, the military stability of Eastern Central Africa largely also depends on him. So this is not just a small timer we're talking about. This is a king of a nation. And for the rest of the time that the Constitution allows him, which the Constitution is basically a paper that endorses him, it doesn't allow any democracy. There's nobody who will dare challenge Kagame, and everybody who has dared challenge Kagame, one way or the other, they've disappeared from the face of the earth. It doesn't matter which country you run to in this world. So the issue is that, men who have seized power in Africa have wanted to retain it until death for several reasons. It's because they have such a bad record in terms of human rights and establishing economic freedom that they know they cannot retire in peace. Thereabout. But also power is sweet in Africa because you sit as a monarchy. You change and twist the laws the way you want. You spend money from the people whatever you want, and you become a subject to be worshipped and adored. Yeah. Not necessarily a servant.
Okay.
So, I mean, for me, other than the stability that he has brought, and Rwanda coming from a background of war, they are careful not to lose that peace. But peace doesn't necessarily sometimes give you stability or thereabout. There are still poor people in Rwanda. Yeah. So it's an interesting dynamic to look at. But at least Kenya, we are getting to a place where power was reverted back to Wanjiku. In fact, Article 1 gives Wanjiku that power to flex as a king. So everybody in Kenya is a king, basically. And that's where sometimes you see our president being helpless, saying, what do you want me to do, surely? So I see a very interesting similarity throughout Africa. And the likes of Mugabe, who will, of course, maybe, I don't know, he's
staying strong to the end.
Yeah, staying strong to the end.
All right, Garasia, let's bring it back to our Kenyan politics. And of course, today we saw the president is in Nyeri. Yesterday he was in Murang'a. The NASA brigade is today in winding up their tour. They've had several stops. Kitale is where by now perhaps will have arrived. But what is the difference? It has been touted largely as a rematch, is what we keep hearing. You know, the same two principal of presidential flag bearer running mate, and as far as the two is concerned, Jubilee and NASA. What is different for you? What is that thing that will give your coalition the edge this time around?
The coalition which has allowed is like, actually we have brought in like many communities together, like tribes, by putting all 5 people together. So we have several. I think it was the best way to put Kenyans together. I wish Kenyans can work towards the not looking at the leaders, where tribe they come from. They should look at the leadership which is going to help them as Kenyans. Because tribe and the party does not work. What the work is a person who is going to go and work for them, which will going to improve their lives or whatever needs to be happen. Because here people's set mind is like two principles, where we have 8 candidates. And I think in this country, we also as a media, you people have failed. Because you should have introduced all the candidates to the Kenyan, and this should
I would challenge that in terms of introducing all the candidates to the media, or rather to the public, because, for example, here on KTN, we have Meet the President. We are interviewing each of the presidential candidates. So I think it's unfair to say we are not presenting them. We are. If they had a rally, we would cover where the rally is. But we've called and sought them out. Yvonne Okora has Meet the President. We had Cyrus Jirongo last night. So you should take that back, sir. At least on KTN.
Well, I'm just not talking about KTN. Just generally, like
media, so.
Generally, what I've realized with the politics is like why these two parties are strong, because of financial strength. Okay, the others president, they want to work for Kenyans, but the problem becomes like how to market themselves. Everywhere they have to market, they have to spend money, because really does not cost to come for free. It comes with the money. Even going to the media, sometimes you have to pursue it. It's not that something you'll get it straight. If you even do a small meeting, it needs money. So money has become a major issue. I always have a problem with the IBC. When there's that law which shows that you have to have a minimum categories to have funds from the government. So it should be equally distributed to the candidates. Like if there's a president candidate,
but you'll have all sort of people going in there. There needs to be a level of, cut-off threshold of sorts. Otherwise, I'll come in and say, oh, I want to be president because I know I'm going to get some money.
No. But
the floodgate opened, wouldn't it?
But this thing comes after candidate, not when you're aspiring. Aspiring is different. There's aspiring and there's candidate. Right now, we are all candidates. Aspiration, you cannot give money. But when you become a candidate, there should be some equal field of playing in terms of everything, finance, because end of the day, when somebody is going there, because that's why you find this corruption is happening. Because somebody to be there, they have to spend a lot of money. Where if you compare the salary and what they have spent, it does not match at all.
That's why they go in and
they go in and they become dishonest. How are we gaining as a people of Kenya?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because if somebody will spend money, obviously he has like another 5 years, he has a budget to now go back and fight for the same elections. So if they don't have money, like right now, if you see, the rallies are only NASA and Jubilee, where those people are not able to do it because they have never been in power and there's nobody to support them because they are not known as a proper people. The people who are financing for their personal interest, the only finance people they know, their interest is be taken care.
All right. Do you agree with that, Dennis?
Sophia, one of the things I need to say is that none of the coalitions actually represent the issues that we have in the country. And Ipsos did a dipstick research last week, and 32% of Kenyans are saying they're not going to participate in the election because they don't like the candidates. In fact, the question is, are you going to vote in the coming elections? 32% say no because of what? Dislike of candidates. Now, voter apathy, Sophia, is so huge that in 2013, 4 million registered voters absconded voting for the presidential vote because they thought these are recycled politicians. It's the same rhetoric over and over again. And it's happening in 2017, whereby you see a likelihood of who's winning are essentially people that you don't think represent you in any other way. Because once you see, the rallies, basically, Jubilee rallies, the agenda is Raila. Is Raila this, Raila that, right? To a hungry populace. The same with NASA, is Jubilee this, Jubilee this. We have critical issues in this country that we want addressed. And none of those principles are addressing that matter.
All right.
So there's technically a research which is showing that there's a dislike of the candidates presented to the populace, and we're likely to see one of the most grave voter apathy in this election ever. Okay. And personally, even as a candidate and as a voter, it's such boring because it's so, there's no climax. It's just the same rhetoric and the same rhetoric over and over again.
Owidi, there are those who argue that our elections, the nature of do or die, winner takes all, is one that requires a revisit in as far as our executive structure is concerned. You've heard of proposals to have the Prime Minister position back, that then would make it more open, bigger, for especially our ethnicity, largely based politics, would be more peaceful, would not see such kind of remarks and sentiments being made on the campaign trail. Do you agree?
Sophia, that is one thing that I have always wanted to debate. The problem we have in Kenya today, people put so much stake on the presidency that communities can kill, can do anything just to have one of their sons go in there. And this been promoted by the presidents we have had in the past. Take, for example, the government we have today in Kenya. We have over 200 parastatal institutions. The large community which generally back opposition, their sons are not there, their daughters are not there. If you look at the cabinet we have today, when this cabinet was being formed, the appointing authority did not find it necessary that communities which come from the major opposition areas have their sons who could sit at the cabinet table with them. They didn't think so. So this is what makes it very, very, very grave. It makes it such a do or die thing. We need to go back and revisit this thing. But one of the problems we have in Kenya also, when we have a problem, we go to legislation. Whenever we have a problem, we try legislating. Kenya is over-legislated. We have too many laws, rules. Kenya is one of the largest constitutions in the world because we want to fit every rule in it. And people always want ways to circumvent these very, very rules we have spent time and money building up. I think we lack goodwill in Kenya. We need goodwill so that when a president sits, he first looks at who did not vote for me. What can I do to bring them back into my fold? So that we have a country where the presidency is not a do or die thing. Also, we must have the presidency in such a way that those who sit in it, like now, can let go. You know, today, if you ask a Kamba woman down there, he thinks the presidency is a preserve of communities that come from the Rift Valley or Central. They have never seen it go anywhere, and it looks like the fight for it to remain there is do or die. So we must make sure also, we make sure that people say from Western, they see at one day this thing will come to our place. So they don't see this is a do or die opportunity.
Okay. I'll give each of you 1 minute for your closing remarks. I'll start with you, sir.
Yeah, I would say Kenyans, please vote for the people, know your candidates, which are standing. It's not only 2 people or 3 people who are standing. Let every person know how many candidates are there. Make effort to do a research on every candidate who are standing so that you can actually vote for the person you like. It's not that you sit at home and you wait for the country to change. It will not happen. It's your effort as a Kenyans will make this country to change. So please make an effort. Come out all in mass. Know about the candidates who are standing. Don't know about only 2 people who are marketing themselves. Do research on them and please vote. That's my request. I'm standing as Ramesh Gorasia from Viper Party.
Dennis, finally.
You know, Sophia, we have such critical issues to address as a nation. And politics essentially actually specifies the way we live in life, the way we access healthcare, the way we access food, the way we access security. Everything lies in the hands of a politician. It's very imperative for Kenyans to vote for politicians not based on ethical background, not based on party background, but based on, you know, somebody who is competent, caring, compassionate, with a compelling vision and with an ethical background, and somebody who basically will be compassionate enough to deliver services to you and to the rest of the nation. So let us vote in leaders who have a character that is ethical, so that we can birth in the new ethical Kenya. And such a leader is the likes of me, Sophia.
Is the likes of you?
Is the likes of me.
All right, and you two will be facing off.
Correct.
Nairobi County for the senatorial seats. One of these days we'll invite you for a senatorial debate alongside the other 2 candidates.
That would be lovely.
And we'd love to hear you share your views of what you do for Nairobi County. Thank you so much for joining us. Odeyo Owidi, political analyst, Dennis Ndumbi, seeking to be Nairobi Senator on Agano Party of Kenya, and Rameshandra Gorasia as well, seeking to be Nairobi Senator on the Wiper Party ticket. We thank you for joining us here on Worldview. It has been a pleasure the last hour. We leave you with counterfacts. Today we focus on Canada. Thereafter, my colleague Mashirima Kapombe will be joining you from